Hey everyone, Emmerron here. So it's been busy. I did not release a How to GM last week because my AC broke while I was in Gen Con. So my wife reached out to me I think it was second last day of the convention. If you've seen my previous video, which I'll link above here, she had COVID right as I left for Gen Con. I thankfully did not share that fate. But she calls me the second last day of the convention, says, hey, our AC is broken. We live in Arizona, by the way, where it's 110 degrees plus all summer long. So this wasn't good. It was very bad. And we have two cats, Fluffy and Skinny, who, if I can, I'll post pictures of them here. But as a result, I get back from Gen Con. And it's I get home from the airport. My parents have given me a ride home, and I was in my own house long enough to grab both cats, put them in carriers, and cart them off to my parents' place for a couple days while we wait for the AC unit to get fixed. So as a result, I have been back at my house now for about a week. So last week was a bit of a wash. This week has been a little bit busy. So now finally, I have a chance on Friday afternoon to sit down and record videos. Thank God. So let's talk about how to GM this week. So this was something I wanted to talk about the week previous because while I was at Gen Con, I played in James Hutt's ELO game. And I was a netrunner, and netrunners are fun. I love netrunning. I've told everyone this before on the channel, and I realized I've been doing it wrong, or I've been running the game kind of wrong, and that's okay. We all make mistakes. We all learn. I'm in a constant process of learning things. I'm not the be-all, end-all authority on this game. That's why other channels like Dice and John exist. Collectively, we have different ways of doing things. We have different information, and we interpret things sometimes a little differently, and that's all good. James Hutt was the final word on this, and he's the mayor of Balancetown. So when I came home and I said, oh no, we've been doing skill checks wrong, my whole group said, what? So yeah, we've been doing them wrong. They said, what do you mean? Very simple. So generally, if you fail a skill check, you can't do that skill check again unless a couple of things are met, right? Or unless one of a couple things are met. So you can have either the circumstances under which you're making this check change. So an example of this would be if you're trying to fix a machine and you're unsuccessful, and then someone kicks that machine and it causes it to be, somehow rearranged, percussive maintenance. You can try again now and see if you can get it working again now that the percussive maintenance has been applied. That's a really basic example, but it serves its purpose, right? So situations changed. You or someone else does something complementary skill check wise to change those circumstances or the approach, which would give you a +1 to the roll if that happens. Complementary skill checks are explained in the game, and I have talked about it in my last video in the series about how some of these less used skills might be useful for exactly this purpose. And James did a great job of illustrating a great way that this applies to net running, which I'll talk about in a bit. Another is you could take extra time on the effort you're trying to make, right? Or the thing you're trying to do. So for most things that would only take a round, you take twice as long, you get a +1 on the roll. Very cool, right? That. So that's 30 seconds or, whatever. So it's not too bad. So you sit down, you spend 10 times long doing it, get a +1. If that still fails, you can spend luck. And so you need to have a higher modifier each time than the time you did it previously. So it does get very, very quickly exhausting of your luck. And this is going to be the reason why I no longer dump luck on my characters. I originally thought, you just put your luck down to 2 and it's fine. I'd rather have a more consistent chance of doing something than needing luck to kick in to do it right, And that's whatever, right? You know, like that's, I did that. It was a mistake. Now I know, right? So in the ELO game, I was the netrunner, and I'm not known when I play Cyberpunk for being a good person in the game, right? I lived in a gang-owned cube hotel, and of course, we're playing ELO, and I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. This is awesome. We're getting griefed. We're getting griefed by people outside, and I'm like, well, damn, this isn't fun. I hate when people grief me. Except, unlike my real life self, which I would never do what I'm about to describe. Everyone watching this, if you ever are an MMO player in real life and this is your response, it is disproportionate. Please do not do what I am about to say. It is not an endorsement. This is because I was playing a role-playing game and not something I would ever do in reality. This is very dangerous in reality. I've put in my mind I'm going to swap these people with max tac. So I decide to, log out of the game while my party members all go and proceed doing the thing in ELO. And I hack into the cell tower on top of the building and start breaking into Ziggurat HQ. This was a choice. I nearly got my brain fried out. I rolled like 3 or 4 critical misses in a row. And so James had me like come up with a reason, like, why can you make another skill check each time I did it? That's wild. I've never done that to a net run in my whole like 3.5 years playing or running the game. Like, and I'm like, how did I like not do this? Because it's like, yeah, that kind of makes sense, but it adds a whole layer of challenge on top of it. So we get to a point in the net run where I get to a control node and I'm like, okay, very cool. There's a control node. I'm going to try and break the security on it. My interface check fails. So I'm like, shit. Okay. Now what do I do? And I'm like, I'm going to try and use cryptography as a bonus skill to give me a better roll on this. So James lets me do that as a net action, and he's like, I roll high enough to just break the security outright. And he's like, you do it. Cool. What do I find? Well, you have access to all of the data for the players that are harassing you. I'm like, good. And so I do what I set out to do, and it was fine. And it was a great time. I had a great time doing it. James kept calling me a dirty party splitter for the rest of the weekend anytime we talked. And I accept that. I did. But I'm also an experienced player, unlike most of the rest of the people at that table. A fair number of them were brand new to the system or had played it once or twice. And I'm just like, I'm going to play the most complex role and do the most janky shit ever. And we're just going to do this. But it gave me a really great appreciation for how that rule is supposed to work. So I thought, let's talk about this in a video. Let's talk about this in a How to GM episode. Because there are really important reasons as such that many of these, like, why would you take science as a skill? Well, because now it's complementary, right? You are trying to make a chemical something. Having a science check support that role is going to actually be like how you earn yourself a second chance on it, right? If you don't just do it up front to like give yourself a +1 naturally, right? If you know it's going to be really hard, you're going to be like, okay, like, let's see what I can do with this, right? So it does give a lot more texture to skill checks. It adds a lot more complexity to the system as a whole. And overall, I really liked how it made me think outside the box. Because again, we were using pre-made character sheets from like the Jumpstart kit kind of thing, or the one-shot kit. So like, this was my character sheet. It's got like pre-prescribed items on the back here. We've got, my cyber deck and everything. So like, this was my character sheet for playing the one-shot game with James Hutt. And so not a character I made, not a character I knew how to play, but I'm just looking at the skill list and like, I have cryptography. Let's use cryptography. Like, that's what I can do to try and enhance my odds here. So it was really, really interesting. So next, I want to talk about some examples of these skills. that we can use to maybe like enhance things beyond just what I talked about in my last video. Thank you to all my patrons for the month of August. Your support makes doing what I do easier and allows me to do more with the time that I have. Thank you all so much. If you would like to support me in what I do, please join these fine people by following the link in the description below. Now back to the video. Thank you all. All right, everyone. So I have the rulebook open here so we could look at the actual rule, just to illustrate it a little further to you guys, exactly what this looks like. So they say specifically here under trying again, that if you fail a skill check, you cannot try again unless your chances of success have been improved for some reason. You took longer, used a better tool, or you or one of your friends made a complementary skill check. Complementary skill checks are where the use of one skill directly affects the use of a subsequent skill. At the GM's discretion, a good roll in one skill, which can even be rolled by another character, may confer a +1 bonus to the subsequent use of a relevant skill, so long as the complementary nature of the two skills makes sense. This +1 bonus only affects the subsequent attempt once. Complementary skill bonuses do not stack. So in other words, if you are doing this and you are trying to, do this thing where you're, I'm going to layer on, like, I can make the gun shoot better by adding physics knowledge. And I'm also going to use my basic tech to understand the workings of the gun and everything. And these are all getting layered on top of, like, I'm taking a shot. You're not going to get +1 from everything, right? Like, you might, you might be able to use one of them and get the +1 once. But beyond that, like, this one time is it, right? This is it. And your odds need to improve, which is where I bring up why luck is important. Because if this +1 fails, burning 2 luck gets you a +2. So you can try again, knowing that that gives you a better shot, right? Taking extra time can also give a bonus to the skill check. When the GM tells you how long a task will take to complete, you get a single +1 bonus to your skill check for taking 4 times longer. So a typical round in Cyberpunk is 3 seconds, meaning that you're spending 12 seconds doing something, or 4 rounds in combat. If it's a round action. If it's not a round action, you're gonna, like, a minute becomes 4 minutes, right? And if you don't have a skill to use, but you want to try anyway, you have one option: simply use stat the skill would have been linked to, add it to a D10. That's all you get. You're relying purely on your stat. And then using your luck, you can dedicate a portion of your remaining luck pool, which holds luck points equal to your luck statistic, which refills at the beginning of each game session, to a check which increases the roll by +1 each point, your luck pool that you expended. Luck is a powerful force, can allow the otherwise impossible to become attainable. It talks about some negative modifiers here too, which that's its own thing. We're not going to really talk about that in the context of this video. But yeah, so we're talking through this from the standpoint of there are a couple different ways you improve yourself, and each of these things can give you a +1, right? So you might, for the first time you try again, try making a complementary skill check or use a better tool. And this, by extension, then would make it so that way you can, get those pluses in there. You might then, in addition to the complementary skill check that you make, so maybe the first time you shoot the gun, you make a complementary check or take some additional time, and you get a +1, right? Or, if you do the complementary first, and you could think of a way to, like, make 2 separate complementary checks like I described. You could do one of them the first time, succeed, do the other one a second time, and take extra time, and that give you a +2. And then once you're beyond that, you're into luck. So now you need to have at least 3 luck to burn to, like, do the thing. That's really important. So that's really important now. So that was the main thing. So now let's talk through some of the skills here. So really quick, I'm going to move this over to the other side, and then we're going to talk about this a little more directly. All right, so some of the skills that I recommend kind of using in this capacity, especially for things you might commonly encounter, are going to be skills like cryptography, physics, or science in general, because science is more like general knowledge statistic. Education could help too if it's something you're trying to come up with, like the logic or reason behind something. That's going to help you better discern those kinds of things. There's also things in like social situations such as maybe dance or paint sculpt that are going to give you, like it could be something goofy, but that really could give you a benefit, right? Like, or you plan down the road and you're like, I'm going to schmooze this guy. I'm going to do this sick ass painting of him. That could legitimately, it sounds goofy, but that could help you. So, like some of these are great in social situations. Violence is usually kind of not applicable to this rule as much. All it means is that when you shoot someone, unless they or you have moved, if you missed the shot the first time, you won't make another, right? Like the situation, if it's the same, you need to do something to change it. And that could just be as simple as moving forward or something, but it needs to change. So yeah, that's kind of like a quick explanation. This, I think, should enhance some of the things I learned off of Gen Con. I want to add to my previous video in this one to kind of talk a little deeper about it. I'm going to try and release a second How to GM video here this weekend as well, to allow for some makeup, if you will, from last week where I did not release one. So I'm going to be doing that one here in a moment. You probably won't notice a different shirt or anything as a result. But as always, thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe if you think I have earned it. To all my patrons, thank you again for your generosity. It allows me to do this and, have the money to do this more permanently, full time. If you would like to become one of my patrons, you can check the description down below. There's a link there. The lowest tier is $3 a month, which will get your credit in this video, as well as $5 a month, which will give you them a day early. So I would highly encourage any of you who do want to support me to do it that way. I don't stream as much right now, so that is definitely helpful if you would normally subscribe to like a Twitch channel or something. I will say in this that I am also looking at making the switch over to YouTube sometime in the not too distant future. So if you want to support me, that is going to be a great way to do it while I get monetization up and running on the YouTube channel here. But that's going to be it for me this video. I hope you all have a wonderful morning, evening, or afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Hope you stay healthy, stay safe, and until we talk again, peace.